Like the dodo, the woolly mammoth and the friendly bank manager, the sports coupe was seemingly extinct, lost forever with old favourites like the Jaguar E-Type and the Scimitar GTE. And then we, the car-buying public, regained an interest in buying quirky and thirsty but damnably attractive cars, and the sports coupe was reborn. And BMW are right in there with this, the M Coupe. Now, usually manufacturers develop a Roadster from their hard-topped equivalent, a bit like taking the top off a boiled egg, really. But not with the M Coupe. BMW did it the other way around. In fact, a group of super keen BMW mechanics stayed late and worked after hours to turn an early Z3 prototype into the coupe's lines. Just because it's the work of the class swats, though, doesn't mean it's all square. Oh no, not at all. Before its recent facelift, the Z3 had been accused of being a bit too soft, particularly around the rear, even a bit girly. But certainly not the case with the coupe. The blistered rear arches and big chromed exhaust are pure aggression. Subtle, it ain't. Outrageous, it is. And the swats certainly did let their hair down and show us their wilder side when it came to under the bonnet, where you'll find one of the world's finest engines. It's a straight six. It was first seen in BMW's M3 and in the M Roadster. Develops about 321 brake horsepower, which is a lot. It's the same, in fact, as the M3, but with less weight. The M Coupe has the advantage. You really do climb down into these leather-lined sports seats where you'll find there is electric adjustment fore and aft and for the height, and manual adjustment for the backrest. Now, smaller drivers will have no difficulty at all in finding a nice, comfortable driving position, but those over 6 foot might find it's a bit of a challenge in here in the headroom department. As you'd expect from BMW, the quality of the interior is right up there with the best. Chrome surrounds the gear lever and the dials. You'll find air conditioning and a radio cassette player come as standard. There are those who might say that in a £41,000 car they'd expect to find a compact disc player as standard as well, but I say that's rather missing the point. Let's not get too caught up on all the little bells and whistles here. Because this car is all about the potency of that straight six engine. Unusually for a car manufacturer, BMW make quite a conservative claim for the 0 to 60 time of about 5.7 seconds, whereas in the dry, times of under 5 seconds have been recorded. And if the Autobahn is long enough and your nerves are strong enough, you'll hit 155 miles an hour before the rev limiter cuts in to spoil your fun. Boom. It's the in-gear times that put this car into context. In top gear, 50 to 70 miles an hour takes just 6 seconds. A Lotus Esprit GT3 takes 8.3, and even BMW's own mighty M3 7.9 when completing the same test. All of the controls are precise and fingertip light, and there's plenty of feedback through that enormous steering wheel as you stare ahead down the very long bonnet. And like a thin sheet on an old mattress, you feel every single bump, as you should in a proper sports car. Also, as you should in a proper sports car, it's got incredible brakes. From 60 miles an hour to a standstill comes in about 2.8 seconds, which is extremely impressive. Having said that, there perhaps isn't as much feel through the brakes as there could be. Let's get back to that eggshell business. Think about the difference it makes to the rigidity of the structure when you have the top on or off, and you'll understand why the coupe will outhandle the Roadster. In the dry, those huge Michelin pilots offer enormous amounts of grip. In the wet, however, you do need to be a little more gentle with the right foot. The surface area of rubber on those tyres, combined with 321 brake horsepower, can lead to some rather tail-happy slides. In an age where BMWs have been accused of losing their soul, the M Coupe points to a rawer type of BMW that we know and love, but also a car that seems almost to have been forgotten. BMW have made themselves a muscle car. In these politically correct times, when even Ferrari and Porsche have started making cars which are well-behaved and easy to drive, the M Coupe harks back to another age, when sports cars would punish the foolish. BMW say that the M Coupe is a rival for the Porsche 911, but on paper that would seem unlikely. The Porsche is £25,000 more expensive and these days more refined, giving swifter, though arguably less involving and exciting performance. However, with only 200 of these due to be imported into the UK every year, the M Coupe may well offer a more exclusive proposition. Maybe the truth is that the direct competition for this car hasn't been made for about 20 years, and the M Coupe is practically in a class of its own, appealing perhaps to buyers of the old-school 911s who like their performance fast and scary.
Going topless can be a rather risky business, as one national newspaper has recently discovered. But if you are determined to go topless and enjoy the delights of summer, then a far more sensible option is to get your top off your Roadster. It's hard to believe that it's 10 years since Mazda first launched the MX-5 and created the rebirth of the Roadster. And as the manufacturers realised that we're suckers for a cute little convertible, it was quickly followed by a succession of gorgeous models for us to choose from. The SLK, Fiat's Barchetta, the MGF, and of course, 007's choice, the BMW Z3. Now, although the gorgeous Z3 was good enough for James to chase those bad guys in, the motoring world was split. Underpowered, not butch enough, a hairdresser's car, all phrases that were bandied around about it. Well, the doubters can eat their words now, because this is the new Z3 and it looks terrific. Now, it may not seem that long since the previous model hit the roads, but there are new versions due of both the MGF and the SLK, and of course Honda have just launched the S2000. It may make for a few unhappy owners of the current model, but at least it shows that BMW aren't a company to rest on their laurels. At first glance, the changes are very subtle. It's only when you get the two cars side by side that you realise the new version has had a huge testosterone injection. It's been working out and it now has one hell of a rump. It's got a redesigned rear bumper. The boot lid has been redesigned to feature these L-shaped light clusters. But the most noticeable thing are the gorgeous curves on the wheel arches. The whole look is squatter and it's lower. This car now looks just as good from the rear end as it does from that gorgeous bulging bonnet. And it's not only cosmetic changes that have beefed the Z3 up. There are changes to the engines lineup as well. There are now 4 engines in the range. A 2-litre straight 6 replaces the 4-cylinder 1.9, and the entry-level model is a new 1.8 version that costs just under 20 grand. The 2.8 engine now features BMW's double Vanos valve timing, which gives it greater mid-range punch, and the powerful M Roadster remains unchanged and still tops the range. This is the £23,000 2-litre straight 6. Now it shares its engine with the superb 520i and it feels very impressive in the Z3. It also features BMW's latest double Vanos technology. What this means behind the wheel is that the engine feels very torquey right throughout the range. 0 to 60 takes just 9 seconds and it has a top speed of 130 miles an hour. There are, of course, a few important considerations that go towards making a great Roadster. Of course, it needs to be rear-wheel drive and front-engined, which this is. It has to have tight, precise steering and fantastic handling, which this has, and it needs to have a great gearbox. And this 5-speed manual version feels just perfect. It's slick, all it takes is a flick of the wrist and you're working your way through the gears. It just makes a fantastic driving experience. There is an option of an automatic box, but why on earth would you want it? Working your way up and down the gears is what makes driving a Roadster such fun and so involving. Automatics belong in large cars, and that's where they should stay. Yes, I like this car a lot. Get this 2-litre version out on the open road and I can't think of many experiences that are quite so satisfying. In fact, the ride is so good that I can forgive this Z3 its very uninspiring interior, which is straight out of the BMW Compact. The changes in here are very subtle, unfortunately. There's a colour-coded panel in the middle, some nice new silver trim on the dials, but the steering wheel still doesn't adjust, which is something that you want in a car like this. And the control panel for the electric hood has also been moved. It's now just at the back here. This 650 quid electric option means that you don't even need to get out of the car to put your top on anymore. It is a very nice luxury, but the standard hood is so easy to operate that it really is a luxury. Once the hood's up, you'll see that it now has an interior lining, which is very welcome. It'll help to keep out the cold on those nasty winter mornings, and it will also make the ride quieter. Although one noise that it doesn't stifle, I'm happy to say, is the wonderful tune that's now played out of the twin exhaust pipes. And now it's time for the crunch, because this is my car. I love the old Z3 so much that I bought the 1.9 version. So would I swap this for the 2-litre version that now replaces it? Well, it's a hard decision. Maybe it's a girl thing, and I'm sure that lots of you out there won't agree with me, but I do prefer the testosterone-free lines of the old model. But having said that, the new 2-litre engine is far superior in terms of performance. So when you weigh it all up, I think I'd have to say that I'd take the 2-litre. Right, where's a local dealer? How much for 98 on an S?
Now, if you're a regular viewer to Men and Motors, as I certainly hope you are, you've probably noticed over the past year or so that one of our favourite cars has been BMW's Z3. We've driven it in 1.9 and 2.8 versions. We've been to the factory in South Carolina to see it being made. So before you start thinking, oh no, not another Z3, well, this is a special one. This is BMW's M Roadster, a Z3 that's been given the M treatment. You can see immediately that this is no ordinary Z3. Enormous wheels and tyres, particularly flared wheel arches at the rear. There's a very low front spoiler and these gorgeous chrome trims either side, plus mirrors and dials exclusive to the M Roadster. So you get exclusive extras on the M Roadster, as you should do on a car costing as much as this. More about that a little later though. Inside you get some rather unusual colouring designs on the seats, which also run through to the fascia, all rather functional rather than particularly attractive. You get air conditioning, heated seats and a power hood, which works exactly as it should do, very well. But the real difference you notice in this car is when you start the beast up. Now, our test car is almost brand new. It's only done, what, 2,000 miles or so, and perhaps that's the reason why the gearbox on this particular car is so notchy. It needs a few more miles under its belt to really smooth out, and in fact, engaging reverse gear really can be a bit of a problem at times. The engine in this M Roadster is the 3.2-litre straight six taken from the M3. It produces 321 brake horsepower through those enormous rear tyres, and with no traction control, this is a car to be taken very seriously and treated with respect, if not a little bit of caution at times. Official performance figures for this car indicate an 0 to 60 time of 5.1 seconds and a top speed limited to 155 miles per hour. And I found that to really appreciate just how fast this car is, you really have to drive it very hard. So, what do we like, what don't we like about the M Roadster? Well, the brakes are absolutely excellent. They stop you dead when you need to stop. The suspension and ride is very good, if not a little hard, but it is a sports car after all. Now, we've been lucky enough today to have a bit of fun on this private airfield and put the M Roadster through its paces. If you want an M Roadster, it's going to cost you £40,570, which is an awful lot more money than the 1.9 and 2.8 Z3s, but you get a lot more performance, of course. You might also care to look, if you're in this sort of price bracket, at the Porsche Boxster, the TVR and the Lotus, which might, just might, give you a better driving experience.
B, M and W. 3 letters that sum up the quality and performance you get from the pride of Bavaria. But of course, if it's real driving excitement you're after, then you'll be looking for an extra letter on the back of your BMW. It is, of course, the letter M, telling you that this BMW has come from the company's motorsport division. Now, it no longer just looks after their racing interests, but in recent years has found a new hobby, tweaking and tuning your average BM and turning them into supercars. Now, from certain angles, you may well think you've seen this car before. The flare of the wheel arches, the swell of the bonnet could lead you to believe that this is the M Roadster. But on closer inspection, you realise that this is in fact a very different beast. This is the M Coupe, the car to silence any of the critics who claim that the Roadster just wasn't butch enough. The M Coupe is packed with more testosterone than you'd get on a night out with the Chippendales. And personally, I think its curves and bulges are far sexier than anything those lads have to offer. This is the kind of car you can't ignore. Now, you may not be able to ignore it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll like it. But what you will do is have an opinion about it. It looks to me as though it's just escaped from a cartoon. The low-down, laid-back hot rod looks are pure Looney Tunes on acid. Yep, I reckon that BMW's design guru Chris Bangle had a fantastic time when he put pen to paper and came up with this one.
There's no point in denying it. The coupe sector is the fashion end of the car industry. It's the shiny plastic handbag sector. It's the place where beauty is more than skin deep. It's an entire reason for being. And it's a place where we buy cars not for their performance or their ability, but for the way they look. It's a beauty parade. It's a complicated business if you've got around £20,000 to £25,000 burning a hole in the pocket of your jeans and you're looking for a car. If it's outright performance you want, then you're likely to be looking at something like Subaru's Impreza or the Mitsubishi Evo. If you want sports car thrills, then there are loads of little rear-wheel drive roadsters like the Mazda MX-5 or for a little more, Honda's new S2000. But no, you want a car that's a little more familiar, that echoes perhaps a more sensible choice but still stands out in the company car park. Though not too much, because it doesn't want to upset the bosses. In fact, what you want is a car that your fleet manager is going to let you have. Enter the BMW 3 Series Coupe. The 2 6-cylinder versions are first to be available, the 323 and the 328. The 318 with 4 cylinders is available in the autumn. The 323 confusingly has a 2.5 litre straight 6. The 328 has a 2.8 litre straight 6. Classic BMW engine, huge bucket loads of torque and a glorious straight 6 bellow to accompany it. The driving position is neutral, you feel very much in command with all the controls exactly where they should be. A couple of criticisms, both to do with the steering though. It's very precise and very direct and quite communicative as you'd expect from a BMW. But it could do, I think, with a quicker rack. You do have to put in an awful lot to get a response. And this wheel is enormous. It's like driving a tractor. It could do with something a little bit smaller just to make it feel like it's a little more eager to turn in. At the moment, it just follows the corners rounds rather than turns into the bends with vigour. And then it has a whole barrage of technological wizardry to help you avoid throwing the thing at the scenery. There's ASC plus T, ABS, SSC, the list goes on and on. Basically, we're talking traction control, and probably one of the most advanced traction control systems on the market today. Bearing in mind this is a rear-wheel drive car with quite a lot of power, you could get into a little bit of trouble. And to illustrate the point of just how effective that traction control system is, try turning it off, and then being a little over-enthusiastic with the right boot, and you soon find things get a little bit naughty. There is a certain irony to this. The BMW 3 Series Coupe is, in its own right, a very good car, and it doesn't share a single body panel with its sister, the 3 Series Saloon version. And yet, despite the enormous expense and amount of engineering involved in achieving that, it's been designed to look, well, Pretty much like the 3 Series saloon, really. In fact, it's longer, lower and wider than the saloon and than the previous coupe. And it does have the same steeply raked front and rear windscreens that kind of define it as a coupe shape. But it is all very elegant and very understated. And the same can be said for the interior, where it's equally elegant and understated. And it's equally ironic that a car so often bought by the terminally brash should boast one of the most understated interiors on the market. Slide into the cockpit of any modern BMW, in fact, and you enter an environment designed to make you comfortable with maximum efficiency. Everything in the right place and everything built to last. Mind you, it's never going to win any prizes for being the most interesting place on earth to be. Standard equipment, though, is pretty good for the 3 Series coupe. We've got electric seats on everything, air conditioning, safety has been given a high priority with 6 airbags in here, ABS and a sophisticated traction control system, and plenty of goodies in the cabin to play around with as well, including electric windows front and rear. And there's little touches like this that can make all the difference. The 3 Series coupe accounts for 1/4 of all UK sales in its sector, and that's a level of success you can't argue with. BMW must be getting something right with this car, and apart from the build quality and image, that probably starts with the combination of rear-wheel drive and strong engines. The straight 6 units are a real peach, and the 328 is a very fast peach indeed, strong and tractable with plenty of power right through the rev range. It really is a joy to drive and feed the power through into those rear wheels. You would expect the 3 Series coupe to be something of a special drive, and it doesn't disappoint. The new 3 Series coupe will sell, and probably in enormous numbers, but when you think about it, for all the wrong reasons. For its pretty face, for its BMW badge. But if it looked like an old allotment shed and was labelled a lumpy doodah coupe, it would still be worth a look. Its sheer ability would overcome such disadvantages. Sure, it might be in the fashion end of the motor industry, but to use a fashion statement, BMW would tell you that their design is a timeless classic, and you know, I don't think they'd be that far wrong.